Hello, and welcome to this month's episode of Staying Global While Staying Home. I'm your host, CEO and founder of the NewComm Global Group, Lucy NewComm, and with us today is our special guest, Deep SenGupta, founder and CEO of DSG Global LLC. Before we get started with our insightful chat with Deep, let me tell you a little bit about him. And I might mention before I even start talking about Deep, his company was the recent awardee of the highest trade award we have in the USA, the President's Export Award. So congratulations on that again, Deep. In this era of supply chain bottlenecks and trade compliance, I know we'll have much to learn from you today, as indeed the White House has agreed. So Deep's prior roles include principal of FedEx's regulatory consulting group, where he started providing international training consulting following a similar assignment at KPMG's Asia Pacific tax practice. He in fact established the international trade and customs practice in India. His other impressive appointments include the Bureau of Industry and Security, where he was appointed to the President's Export Council in the Obama administration, and their subcommittee on export administration to provide private sector feedback on export controls. Customs and border protection was also a key aspect of Deep's background in the working group on enhancing the focused assessment program. For many years now, Deep has served on our District Export Council in Northern California, where he has also been the chair. And he has also held leadership roles in other professional organizations, including the Global Chamber of San Francisco, Women in International Trade Northern California, and G100 Global Trade USA, where I have the pleasure of working directly with Deep as our #1 denim partner. Deep, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, good morning, Lucy, and thank you so much for having me. I'm super thrilled to be here with you.
Well, thank you very much. Before we start talking about navigating the pandemic, why don't you give us just a quick snapshot of DSG Global? We have a bit of a sense from your wonderful background, but why don't you tell us just a little bit about DSG Global and what is your principal areas of activity, and what are your principal areas of activity, and a little bit about your clients and your focus areas. Thank you.
Sounds great. Well, DSG Global is an international trade consulting firm. We mostly help small to medium-sized companies with all sorts of international regulatory problems, not just in the United States, with import rules and export rules, but also globally with our worldwide network. We can help with customs duty rates, issues they may have with foreign customs agencies worldwide.
That's terrific. Well, at the time we are recording this, we've just had an outbreak of war in the Russia-Ukraine area, and all kinds of trade issues are being impacted. Russia's about to lose its most favored nation trading status. Imports have stopped, exports have stopped. We won't go too far down that path today, but that is to say that certainly your role in your business has all the more value add because the trade landscape has become increasingly complex, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, Lucy. And if you see these dark bags below my eyes, it's because of the last 10 days of obviously the unacceptable Russian invasion of Ukraine. And the aftermath of all the rules that the US, UK, EU have issued on the sanctions front. So a lot of I was in the middle of a couple of deals with Russia on behalf of my clients. And my clients were trying to expand to Russia, get various licenses from the Russian government, and all that, stopped because of these sanctions. And we're also going to see the reverse sanctions, where Russian goods now attract, the category 2, which is, non most favored nation tariff rates, which is going to be staggering. So it's a really sad situation, not just politically for the Ukrainian people, but also in terms of international trade.
I think even the Russian people, I read today that Russia is actually, I don't quite understand this rationale, but they are putting a stop to a lot of imports. It's kind of like someone breaking up with you and then you tell them, well, I'm breaking up with you too. I just feel as bad for the Russian people who I don't think, who have expressed they didn't want this war as the Ukrainian people, but we'll table that discussion. And, I think in our profession, we do have opportunities to build bridges beyond the literal moment. And so I'm sure you are doing that, as I am trying to do that, even as the picture shifts hour to hour. So thank you for all you're doing. And I'm very sorry about your deals. I hope, in a way you helped your clients dodge a bullet, but because can you imagine if you would have launched there 6 weeks ago and gotten these deals going 6 weeks ago, it would be a nightmare now. So even worse.
Absolutely.
So hopefully you'll find new markets for them. And if not, let's partner about that, because, that's what we do. So, but hang in there, because I know undoing deals that were meticulously crafted, it's gotta hurt.
More than anything else, I really also feel bad about, apart from the Ukrainian people, the Russian people who, didn't support the war, but for instance, Pricewaterhouse, KPMG,
Right.
Ernst & Young, IBM, all these companies, at least the big four, they've disassociated with their Russian colleagues. And, that obviously means that they're going to lose a paycheck, they're going to lose their jobs, and it's tough all around.
Yes, I think I'm reading this morning about the food implications and the food security implications. I think the unintended consequences of this will be even more severe than, round one of these unexpected disastrous consequences, where I think we're in for quite a few rounds of where this is a far-reaching situation. So I'm glad you're on the front lines.
Yeah.
I'm staying on the front lines and praying hard, because I don't think there's going to be any winner in this, from what I could tell.
And talking about the impact on the Russian people, I don't want to make light of this, but even fine dining has been affected because McDonald's is shutting up their Russian operations.
Correct.
So
yeah,
there's a brief levity, but
I had when I first landed in Moscow, my taxi driver taking me. This is many years now, but they had just had the McDonald's in their borough, if you like, installed, and to go get a Big Mac was, like you said, fine dining. I mean, we take it for granted here in America, but it really, when he told me how much it cost, and The Economist has a Big Mac index where they price a Big Mac around the world every year, I think we're going to see some dramatic changes. So yeah, McDonald's joins a long list of companies, and now it's almost getting to be uncool to be there, right? Like you kind of have to pull out. I'm seeing a few skirmishes around, oh, maybe we'll pull out this summer, and we'll make a plan to pull out, and but pretty much, it seems to be almost like an international boycott.
that's right. And more and more companies that were kind of soft pedaling, are finally coming around and saying, yes, we're pulling out as well. So based on adverse market reaction from the customers as well. Yes,
I think we'll see a lot of that. And I'm heartened in the Bay Area to see the incredible support for the Ukrainian people, with over 2.5 million refugees now that have exited in the last 10 days. And, we have a group in the Bay Area that has collected donations of 92 pallets. And they are a shipping company owned by Ukrainians who have immigrated here. And so they're trying to raise funds because, each shipment is staggeringly expensive. But I'm heartened that our local people, even though we're flipping out at the gas station, it's nothing compared to what our Ukrainian brothers and sisters are going through. And it's wonderful to see that. I hope you agree.
Absolutely.
Well, as if the pandemic weren't enough, right? As if we weren't already kind of coping. Let's shift our attention there with best wishes to all involved. Like I said, I don't think there will be any winners. And let's talk a little bit about what you have observed in about 2.5 years in your international experience, because of course you have strong Indian roots and work around the world. What have you observed about your clients directly or your clients' customers? How are they navigating the pandemic at this time, and any particular insights at a sort of an aerial level? We'll start aerially and then talk a little more granularly. It's early here.
Yeah. Well, Leslie, sorry, Lucy, I apologize.
It's
Uh,
early.
the impact that I've seen on my customers really have are different based on their size. I've seen that smaller companies, while they were more nimble and were able to pivot and orient their business towards any opportunities that the pandemic provided, many of them went out of business if they could not, pivot fast enough. The larger companies, I deal with a lot of companies in the biotech, in health
Ah,
sciences, life sciences field, and a lot of them got into the vaccine production or the testing equipment for
oh,
the COVID vaccines. And for them, it was financially the best years ever, right? I mean, because
of course.
tremendous international government and consumer demand. For instance, Reckitt Benziger, that owns the Dettol brand of disinfectants. I mean, they couldn't make it fast enough.
Hmm.
Uh, on the other hand, I also deal with IT companies,
Of course.
and one of my customers makes computer peripherals and accessories,
Oh,
that
okay.
you see on your computer desk, And for them, while initially they didn't know what to do because their retail operations were shut down, they saw that their sales on Amazon went through the roof because people are now staying at home. And guess what they're doing? They're buying computer accessories for their Zoom
Of course.
meetings, but I mean, that is obviously the good news. I've also got some cybersecurity clients, and because I also advise on export controls on software, and generally, also emanating from Russia because of cyber stalking, cyber raids. The
Yeah.
Yeah, this IT software field, cybersecurity, has also been booming. But at the same time, I know a lot of smaller companies that supply to restaurants, and they
Of
went out
course.
of business.
Oh,
So
dear.
sadly,
Because their restaurant customers probably went out of
that's right. The restaurants themselves went out of business. Restaurants would be happy if they did 10% of the business. And some obviously pivoted to a delivery model. But so it's been a mixed bag. But generally, folks in the high tech and health sciences fields, where my clients fall, did pretty okay. And a lot of them discovered global markets through the advice
business.
of the US commercial service. They were able to get on trade missions, export globally, discover new markets. And I think that's where it kind of mitigated some of the adverse pandemic effect.
Wonderful. Do you happen to know, and not necessarily, but would you happen to know of one of your clients or partners or somebody in your sector that found a particular workaround that was effective? We've had in Brazil, there was a beer company that partnered with a hospital. That's probably the most unique I have heard. But have you found any particular in your informal research along the way, found any particular workaround that was worth mentioning?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there's so many examples. And it's just that when their domestic business got a little stunted, companies started looking out. And the US commercial service, with their trade missions in different countries, many of which obviously became virtual, I think it gave people more of an international orientation. So they started exploring international contracts. I've got a couple of aerospace customers, and they look
Oh,
at customers, government customers around the world. I've got a lot of industrial customers that make weighing machines, measuring equipment that could be used in labs, and they were forced. It was almost like a kick in the pants that let's
yes.
start looking globally now, and to their benefit.
Terrific. Well, I think we're moving into our final question. It sounds like you just bridged very well with this segue. Um, of any silver linings that you have seen come up as a result of the pandemic, for yourself or your clients, unexpected opportunities that might not have arisen otherwise.
There's obviously very few silver linings, but many people I know personally, they've lost loved ones, as do I. I've also known many businesses that have failed, and these are mostly small businesses that have really suffered. But if I were to talk about silver linings, I would say it boils down to also the human element of people reaching out and forming alliances. I've seen a lot of, and that translates to bigger companies, mid-sized companies as well, where, I've seen companies kind of change their service or product portfolio to, for instance, there was a industrial filtration company. Their business is industrial filters, and they came up with a mask concept because they're the experts in industrial filters. That was
right. That's what they do, filter.
very innovative. So I've seen innovation happening with a lot of my smaller mid-sized companies where they're trying to orient themselves to helping the community and obviously creating a larger market share in a new field. I've also seen a lot of service providers kind of coalesce around similar customers. For instance, consulting firms that offered different services to the same consumer group, merging, forming alliances and partnerships. I think that's been a huge revelation, and it's been pretty heartwarming to see people coming together. It might be for added revenue streams, but the greater collaboration has been wonderful to watch.
Well, that's a wonderful insight. I mean, there really have been, most people say things like digital transformation. So it's really nice to hear something that's sort of more H to H, human to human, as you say, and extended reach, extended partnerships, and probably going deeper on some relationships that were already there, but maybe didn't have a chance to fully blossom, so to speak, from the sound of what you're saying.
Right. And another point I'd make is the rate of digitization. If the pandemic weren't to happen, I mean, the amount of, the digital revamp companies would have done would have been much less than we've seen over the last 2 years, where everything's kind of becoming more app-based or more consumer-friendly from usability perspective in the digital apps. So companies have revamped their websites, made it easier, so you can just do business and e-commerce through your website. That's been, that growth has been phenomenal over the last.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think the A word is on everybody's lips, and it used to be Apple, but not so much in this context.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Deep, for sharing your insights. Any last words before we sign off?
Well, it's I always advocate going global. Why? There's a lot of protectionist movement saying bring America's manufacturing back, which I'm all for manufacturing. But if you try to just isolate yourself and just keep your operations local, domestically within the United States, it's kind of disingenuous to then start looking for global markets to sell your products, because other countries, they look for themselves as well, and they'll say, hey, why are we going to open our markets to you if you don't open it to us? So I'm all for international trade. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I recommend everybody, get to know your local US commercial service office. Leslie, either you or I can easily make introductions if they need. And I really think taking part in the trade shows opens the blinkers and sees what a whole world of opportunity there is out there.
Absolutely. Well, Deep, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your unique perspective. And it's just been great. It's been great. We didn't even touch on supply chain bottlenecks, but I think that's fine. I think we are ending on a positive note. Great opportunities to explore new markets, deepen partnerships, and even enhance one's digital relationship with consumers. So terrific. Thanks so much for your insights.
My pleasure. And I wish you and your audience all the very best, Lucy. And thanks for having me.
Thank you, Deep. Next month, we'll be joined by Soren Juhl Jorgensen, the founder and CEO of Forest Avenue consulting firm specializing in geopolitics, especially in Europe, and the former consul general from Denmark here in Silicon Valley. Again, I'm Lucy NewComm. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're looking at global markets, please give us a call, or 650 in the US, 650-735-1875, or on the following screen, you'll see our emails for easy contact as well. Thank you again, Deep. Thank you all. Bye-bye.